Yeah, I mean, come down to mistakes in the fourth quarter. A turnover that kept us from getting 7 or at least 3. A bad interception that gave them 3. And, and then defensively we didn't play as well in the second half as what we had in the first half. And, we had a couple critical situations that we could have got off the field and didn't get that done. And so, all of us share in that, coaches, right? But then, we had to be better in a couple situations with decision-making and how we handle the ball.
You guys ran the ball so well. Why even try and throw it down there at the goal line, especially with that?
Well, I mean, we had just ran it and didn't get anything, right? So we're 3rd and goal at the 3. We said, okay, we could go two straight plays. But, look, he made a mistake on it, right? They have a guy sitting over the ball. The play was open. The guy that was supposed to cover J. Mike had his eyes in the backfield. But there's a guy over the ball. We can't throw it with the guy over the ball. And so we got to coach him better in that situation because we should have tucked it and got what we could get out of it without throwing the ball in that situation. We made a mistake. So that's anytime there's a mistake made, it's a coaching mistake. So that's the way we got to look at it.
Okay, what did you see on Kaden's interception there right after that drive?
That was a bad decision. All right. So, I mean, again, like that, he tried to force something that off balance and force it back across, Look, I mean, we can say whatever we want. That was a decision that we couldn't make. And so, again, like we've got to coach him to be better in that spot. We needed to eat the ball and just punt it out of there at that time. But we can't put it in that situation because ultimately that's what made it a 10-point game, and that's what, we needed to be able to try to get a stop. We still had timeouts and that type of thing. And to put it in that situation, killed us.
Statistically, that's the worst defense in the country. Why can't you guys get any kind of offense really, really going?
Well, I mean, I think you could look at a lot of things. Number one, we knew this was not going to be Boise or UNLV game because we were going to defend them better than those teams. So when you're given a 3-play touchdown, you're going to have a bunch more possessions. Those teams had a bunch more possessions in games because every 3 plays, somebody's got their eyes in the wrong spot and they score a 60-yard touchdown. So we knew it'd be a little bit different type of game that way. I think, where we had to be better was we had we did well right away off the bat, got the ball down the field, and then we went into a dead spell for a couple possessions in a row in the first half. And look, we had 4 possessions in the first half. That's the type of game it was going to be because we were going to defend them better than these other teams that give up touchdowns in 3 plays. And so it was going to be a different mindset that way. And, we had to, I thought in the third quarter we come out and we just ran the ball. We needed to stay in that mode. But then, we got, just made a couple mistakes at a couple critical points. And, you get a drive stop in the third quarter. And then we have to, we get a really good drive just in the fourth quarter there. We're going to go up 7 points and do that and make a mistake in the end zone.
If you want to stay in that mode as the head coach, can you go call upstairs and say, keep running the ball?
Yeah, I mean, that's what we did in the third quarter. Look, we had 4th and 3 in that first third quarter drive right out of the bat, and it was like the ball needs to be in Teron Kelman's hands. We're running the football here. Okay, so we stayed in that mode and do that. Now, we're going to look at a couple things and say, okay, should we have called this in a bit better situation? Obviously, if you're throwing an interception in the end zone, you sit there and go, oh, we shouldn't have called that. And that's the whole thing there. And we have to locate the guy over the ball. And a lot of people will be in cover 0 in that spot. They have been in cover 0 before in that spot. All last year they played us in cover 0 in that spot. But at times they play with a safety over the ball, like a man-free defense. And so we needed to identify that guy and not throw the ball in that spot, and we did.
How much did that drive right before halftime, not getting any points on that because of the back-to-back penalties, how much did that kind of hurt you guys?
I mean, it was still we still had work to do because we were going to kick it into the wind and we still had to get to the 20-yard line. We were still a little ways away. And some people say like, okay, what I tried to do at the end of the first quarter was make them punt into the wind. We got to stop. Okay, so we used 2 timeouts at the end of the first quarter to try to get a short field and see if we could get this to a 14-3 game, right? And, well, it was a bad punt. Ball hit the 45-yard line, and then it rolled, 12 more yards. And so then you lost a little bit of the effect to it. But the whole goal was, okay, if we get the ball at the 45, 50-yard line, which if we were able to field not a shanked ball, then we were in 4-down territory to try to go and then see if we could get it to a 2-score game. And that was so at the end of the half. You said, well, the timeout would have been. We still had to get the ball with the wind the way it was. We were still going to have to get the ball the 20-yard line at best, maybe even slightly inside of it to be really, fair to the kicker.
On that final touchdown drive, it seems like Kaden is a little bit more comfortable in that kind of hurry-up cadence. Am I wrong in thinking that, or I just think he plays better?
No, well, I mean, look, I thought he handled that drive pretty well. Now, there's also an opportunity, defensively, they were a lot softer, in that regard there too. But I also think that, that was where, we had a couple that, look, when you play a game, 2 of the quarters you're going to have the win, 2 of the quarters you're not. And in the 2 quarters where we weren't productive enough at certain things offensively. And like I said, we get the ball at the 3-yard line, we got to score. And we got to score a touchdown and go up 21-14, and we throw an interception and then allow a drive. And we have a couple opportunities defensively, critical situations, to get off the field. And there was a couple, we made a couple mistakes defensively, and one would have forced a field goal on the touchdown drive. And so we have to own that too.
Maybe specific on the mistake, maybe?
Yeah, I mean, we had a miscommunication with the call that come in. The corner should have been blitzing off the edge. So when they pitched the ball and they still, it would have been a 6-yard loss, and they would not have been able to go for it on that 4th down. So that's what happened.
What's maybe your message to the team after a loss like today?
Yeah, I mean, look, the thing is that we've got, we still have a lot of football left. We can't make mistakes the way we made in the 4th quarter of this game on both sides of the ball. And that's what happened. Like when we gave up 7 that we could have got, 3 that we gave them with 2 critical turnovers, right? We weren't going to, one of the keys that we said going into this game, we're not going to win this game if we're minus in turnovers. And in the 4th quarter, we're -2. There's the ball game, and if we're not -2 in that situation, then, we're going to be in probably a better situation and probably a happier locker room right now. And, we have to, it's ownership of all of it. Like, it's not, it's not just players, it's coaches, it's the whole deal. But, by the same token, there's certain things we have to be able to execute in certain situations, and we didn't get that done.
What's it like in the locker room right now?
Well, what do you think it's like? Like, we lose a game by 3 points. We're not happy. Everybody's pissed. That's what they're supposed to be, right? Everybody's supposed to be pissed right now. Everybody's supposed to be upset right now. And they're not going to point fingers at each other. There's too much leadership and pride and everything that way. Nobody's going to be pointing fingers at anything. We all need to take ownership of the things that we've got to do better in certain situations, right? And that's part of it. And we didn't play as good in the second. We gave up 18 points in the second half defensively. We didn't play as well in the second half defensively as what we did in the first half. And we had opportunities to get off the field. And we turned the ball over twice offensively in the second half, right? So, we're all mad. Coaches are mad. Players are mad. We're all disappointed in the result. And a lot of it's just because of the fact that everybody cares so much. And so that's where we're at.